Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to this learning experience brought to you by DevOps.com. My name is Cody, and I'd love to welcome you back to Techstrong Learning for another Techstrong Learning experience. So we do have an exciting program ahead, but before we get this conversation rolling, we've got a couple of housekeeping notes I'd like to cover with you. First, today's session is being recorded. So if you miss any of our discussion, perhaps you'd like to rewatch at a later time or maybe share with your team. You will be sent via email an on-demand link so that you can watch the recording at a later point in time. And you can also find it living on the DevOps website at devops.com/webinars. If you'd like to engage with us, and we really want you to, as this is going to be an open discussion for our entire audience, you've got a couple of options to engage with us. The first option is the chat tab, which you'll find on the right side of your screen. I see some of you have already started using it, but we do want to know where everyone is from, so go ahead and let us know there. If you do have any specific questions, though, we do want you to direct those to the Q&A tab. Sending your questions to our Q&A just helps us keep track of them, and we do want to be able to answer as many questions as we can today, so send them in early and often. And of course, before we close things out today, we are giving away 4 $25 Amazon gift cards, so be sure to stick around for the duration of our conversation. So our topic today is the real value in value stream management, and I'm joined today by Lance Knight, President and COO of ConnectAll, and Mike Vizard, Chief Content Officer here at Techstrong Group. So Lance, thanks for joining us here. Mike, would you like to go ahead and take it from here?
Thanks, Cody. Thanks for everybody for being on the show.
I had a quick thing before I go. I'm no longer CEO of ConnectAll. I'm now Chief Value Stream Architect at Broadcom.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Well, congratulations on that. That might be news to some folks right there.
I think so.
So let's get started with some level setting, because I'm not sure everybody knows exactly what we mean by value stream management, but I feel like we've been working on this DevOps thing now for the better part of 10 years, and we don't always have the amount of discipline and rigor that might be required to manage software as part of a business. We hear that businesses are more dependent upon software than ever, but it's not clear to me that people are really kind of managing it like that, as much as it is a collection of individual projects that hopefully all meet at the quarterback one day. But Lance, what's your sense of what is the state of value stream management these days?
You know, I've been in this particular space for a long time with software development delivery and value stream management. You know, ConnectAll was one of the first to kind of jump in the bandwagon and plow that forward. And now we've got other companies coming in, and we're starting to see the industry kind of consume each other. For example, ConnectAll just got acquired by Broadcom, and we're part of their tech stack now, and we're working with there. As for the market itself, besides the vendors and the tooling who are going into that space, I think it's still a little confused. I think there's some pieces that have to come together. I think, I've always been more of a traditional value stream management person, where I'm attaching value stream principles from lean manufacturing to Kaizens, all that, tying that to developing software. When other parts of the industry is going to, are we delivering value? Here at Broadcom, we put the value in value stream management. What does that mean? And how does it really come together with more of the traditional value stream management? So I think the state right now is still a little confusing. Is it being more efficient in how you develop and deliver software from idea to code and production? Or is it ensuring that you're delivering value to the business? Those are two different things, but yet value stream management seems to encompass both of those. And now how do we get the messaging right so we understand that it may encompass both of those? Because the industry is kind of bifurcated on those two things. I've always been to the other side, where it's traditional, lean principles and so on. But my opinion is starting to wane toward this thought process of ensuring that value is getting delivered. Mm-hmm. Interesting contrarian point of view I put out there all the time. 90% of what we do in developing software is non-value added activity, as stated in lean principles. Most of what we do is deciding is what we're doing is valuable. most of the creation of value, which is the coding and moving into production, the DevOps side, is not most of the work. Most of the work is taking a requirement, breaking it down, going through all those pieces of deciding how to do the right thing, which is really interesting. And I think what we have to do is maybe rise up above some of that and bring it together. So the state is still this level of confusion of what am I going to get out of thinking about and implementing value stream management principles in a software development delivery shop.
Mm-hmm. Does one kind of beget the other? Because if I cannot really rely on the business analysis that I'm looking at, if I don't have some discipline to the DevOps workflow that lets me become more efficient, because I don't really know where I might need to add additional engineers unless I have reliable data, and then I don't have any sense of what the cost of that might be to the business unless I have those things. So in some ways, are we overthinking value management and value stream management, and we should just kind of focus on the general outcome is just better discipline for how we build software economically?
So I think the answer to that is yes, we're overthinking this as an industry, because we should be able to come to a consensus of what value stream management really is, and build an understanding of that so you can build a principle around it, right? Value stream management, to me, is that traditional stuff. But I think value management does play in this. So I've often said that a value stream management platform has to let you do both value management and value stream management. So as a company, you have to be able to make sure what you're giving to the value stream is valuable, and then you're managing the development of that efficiently, right? So it has to be able to do both, this industry, not just making sure that it's code through to production, but that the process of deciding what to do is also done efficiently and put it into production. So it has to be a little bit both. And also, and what am I developing? Is it valuable? And how do I determine what to give the value stream to be valuable? Mm-hmm. Another contrarian thing I say all the time too is the value stream does not care whether what it's working on is valuable or not. It's been given something to put together. It's assuming that it's valuable. But if you think about software, which you can't put in the same square boxes of, you can't put that round thing called values, that square box called software development in the round manufacturing circle, right? It doesn't fit the same. Our batch sizes are different. Our outcomes are different. It's not the same every time. So you have to really think through whether what you're doing is valuable to the business, and then putting that into your different value streams and getting it developed.
Right. Does that come back to just measuring the value of the thing that you launched as a project to the business in the first place, and then kind of creating something that feels like KPIs to track that, because the value does change over time. The time I launch a project and by the time it comes to fruition, the market may change, the need may change, the other things may have been created that superseded. So I think we sometimes think about this stuff as, it was a great idea at the beginning, but we don't think about it as a continuous analysis all the way through. So is that kind of part of the equation?
I think so. I agree. Yes. At the end of moving something through, determining whether you delivered value, either by usage metrics, by all of those different things that you can cycle back and see if you accomplish your goals. I think the bigger problem, though, when you think about value management, it's at the front end. It's deciding whether something is really valuable against your different business outcomes. And I think the biggest problem with this market segment, which I've been in for a while, is this one word: value. It's overutilized here. It's overanalyzed. The word value means so many different things. It's nebulous, right? What is valuable? Just think about that for a minute as you're thinking about value stream management or your value stream. That word value has taken on a new life in software development and delivery that did not take in manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem, I think, with this space. Everybody's getting caught up with that word value. Am I delivering value to the business? So how do you determine what's valuable? I have this kind of point of view lately of that, which is kind of value scoring. As you think about a requirement, well, let's take an epic or a user story. We'll start with an epic. How is that valuable? There are multiple areas of value that implementing that epic could bring. But you have to understand those multiple areas compared to all the other things that you're trying to accomplish. How do you determine that value of that epic over the value of the other epics and make a business decision which one to push forward?
Well,
There's many variables there.
Let's back it up from a different perspective. Who's leading the charge on this conversation within organizations? Because value is in the eye of the beholder ultimately. So is it the business executives who are sitting there determining what the value is, or is it the CTO and the software development team that may not be that close to the business in the first place? So how would they ascribe value? I kind of sit in the middle of this thing. Who do I kind of look towards?
So, every organization is different, right? I think from a business perspective, you think about the type of organization you're working with. So when you think about products, the organization changes, right? So think about a bank or a financial institution. They don't really think about technology in the same way we do. The technology is in service of their products, but it's not their pure product. They make products, but they're in service of their products. They're using technology to service their customers and service their products. So they're going to think about it differently than a pure software company would think about it, right? Their product is their product, right? So you think about a bank, what's their product? Deposits, loans, anything to do with managing money, not the software that services those products. So it depends on the organization you're with. So, software companies, usually it's the product owner, product manager that's making those thoughts, that's kind of figuring out what's valuable, and they're trying to relay why these capabilities are valuable to the customer and how those capabilities are going to increase retention or stickiness or drive new revenue or deliver new capabilities. So, and sometimes that's even the customer. And sometimes that's just the market itself. Typically, that's a product manager or somebody like that doing those types of analysis. And I think that's probably the way it should be in a financial institution as well, but in service to their product and what they're trying to sell in the business.
We say almost everywhere you go that companies today are all software companies that happen to do something that, but they're fundamentally building software. But to your point, they're in some other business. How do they measure the return on investment in software development? Because value stream is kind of part of that conversation. And, that's the thing that business leaders get excited about. I don't think they get excited about value stream per se as much as they just want to know, if we put 50 cents in, did I get $3 worth of value out?
Yeah, so that's true, right? I don't think that executives are losing sleep over, I don't have a value stream management solution. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they're not. I think they're thinking about, how do I increase revenue, retention? How do I increase shareholder value? They're thinking about all those other things. But it's up to the people in the middle of all of that to think that way, so that that executive is getting the things that they want. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, it's different between each company too. So, but saving cost is something value stream management should do if you're doing it efficiently and you're looking at how to remove waste, non-value added activities, and being more efficient. That has a return on investment on it if you're thinking about VSM. Delivering more value to the customer based upon some analysis of what value is in that particular place is important. And when you think about software development and delivery, the part I think a lot of people don't think through, especially in like digital transformations, sometimes that's not sending software to the pure play customer. Sometimes that's software to make somebody more efficient at their job within an organization and applying digital things like that. So that definitely has an efficiency return when you're developing something. It's not necessarily always customer facing. That's where I'm going. I used to develop software in manufacturing for the manufacturing facility. It never really went to the customer, but it made things like putting in corrective action easier. I developed corrective action software to hook into our ERP once, right? So it's not always just customer is also a nebulous word is what I'm trying to say.
How much of this is also just about ultimately decision justifications? Because a lot of times, I have a bottleneck in a project and I need to move 3 developers from one to the other, but I need to justify that because this bottleneck is more important to resolve because there are so many other dependencies. But I just need something that I can show somebody else that says, this is why we're making these decisions and here's the tools that I use to do that. But ultimately, I may need to show that to somebody who's not a CTO. They might be a CFO or something, but I have to do this in a language they understand. So how much of this is a business justification translation exercise?
So a lot of it can be, and I'm formulating a thought in my head to your question, and a lot of it is, some of it's even just intuition, knowing that better efficiency. If somebody saves 5 minutes in a daily task, it makes sense, right? And there's a cost justification for it, right? The example I can use is right up Connect All Alley. That is, if I'm copying data around from one tool to another, that's a cost, and I can measure it, and I can measure the time. But there's also other pieces of that as well, right? So I would say that a lot of it is trying to put that into, return on investment numbers and cost analysis numbers and so on across all those different tools. And most CIOs today are developing stuff, but they don't know how much they're spending. Agile has kind of made that a little more blurry for them, right? So, how much did I spend to make that widget for that customer, and was it worth it? Now, but here's where I think, sometimes we get to that thing you said earlier. Are we overthinking all of this?
Well, look at it another way, right? We are all talking these days about developer productivity.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that comes back to, well, what is the analysis of, how much code should I be getting from a developer? How many more developers am I going to need to get this project done on time? And what are the implications if the trains aren't running on time? And that all goes downstream in the value. I think the problem is, and you alluded to it earlier, is so much of this is not a software factory, despite the fact that we use those terms. A lot of this is still art. So how do we kind of manage that process in a world where, coding still requires a significant amount of inspiration on the developer? It's not just per se a craft where I'm making, automobiles on an assembly line. At some point, somebody has to be in a zone to write, code that really holds together and will stand the test of time. And we have a lot of code that gets written and never makes it into a production environment. So how do we kind of put our arms around something that is inherently squishy?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because it's very true. So I worked in manufacturing, and I've talked about this quite a bit. They had a value stream. That value stream was titanium came in one door, went through the system, and other things to make that titanium do it was through that system, and out the door went a turbine blade to go into a engine or into a power generation machine or whatever, but that was the same product every time. And you made your value stream to build that efficiency at a certain level, and you had people called They were called production control people, making sure all that was working right. They had process engineers, make sure you're building it right. And then they have Kaizens, all this other stuff to make sure all that works out at the same. But here's the problem with software. It's not the same thing. At time and time again, you're not making the same thing, right? It's all different. This is where another contrarian thing I like to say is cycle time is feckless in software development and delivery. It's got to be done in averages, not on this one part. And you do averages in manufacturing too, but the swing could be so big against what you're doing, and the skills to do those different things are different all the time. So it's a little tougher. And I'm going to say that the biggest challenge is making software development and delivery more predictable. And it's not predictive because of all these other things. So how do you do it? Well, you just make sure you build the efficiencies in where you can. And if you see a bottleneck in where that bottleneck is, you have the ability in the analysis and the metrics and the lean principles and mindset to know that here's why that's happening. Then take action as best you can.
All right. So it's a scientific approach to squishy, right?
Yeah. And it's never not gonna be squishy. I know we're saying the software development factory, and I like that term, but it's not a factory. I mean, from somebody who's coded before recently, you have to wait for inspiration. The muses have to hit you. And the reason why I don't code all the time is once a muse hits me and I'm going at something, I can't put it down. I forget about dinner. I forget about whatever. And my head's in that space. I'm in the flow, as they call it, or the zone. And I just go. And then nothing else gets done around me. But, I've got some other jokes about, but so you have to give the developer freedom to get into that zone. So my thought process of how do you make that more predictable, and that is, I think, removing some of the things on the top of the decision tree of what to do and letting developers take some of that might make that more efficient as well. There's this thing that I've been talking about lately, which is called value stream noise. And noise to me is all the meetings, all the things, all the feedback loops, everything that stops you from getting in that zone. One of the worst culprits in the world of not letting the developer develop is Slack and chats and emails. I mean, I turn that stuff off. I don't get Slack notices during the day, which makes other people annoyed with me, but I'm able to get stuff done. So all this noise is flowing around the developer in the value stream, and removing that should help them be more efficient in developing code, but it's still squishy.
Right. Sometimes, we're asking people to code in the middle of Grand Central Station, right? Because there's 3 million messages and alerts and noise and all kinds of stuff coming around them. And then we wonder why the code's not so good.
And why it's not getting done and why we're not efficient and we're not giving them that freedom. So you're absolutely right. Now, that's value stream management to me. You're looking at the non-value added activity. We're looking at those things that are really getting in the way of doing that value added activity, which is writing code and delivering the capabilities and features.
So we've got a couple of questions. I'm going to jump to one of them, but can we provide any examples of successful VSM implementations? I mean, who's doing it right and how did they get there?
So I can't give names, but there are some companies that are really, they've created the role in the organization called value stream managers. They're looking through the organization, seeing how they can make that efficient, how they can improve process, and be better at it. You've got organizations that are effective because this whole thing around organizing around value streams is now a big thing where I'm creating a value stream, I'm organizing around it as part of a transformation in companies and how to deliver in this value stream mindset. So there's a few companies out there that are really taking it on, and I've worked with some of them, and how they really look at it end to end holistically, and then they have the right analytics to do it as well. I'm thinking of a particular company that can tell not just how many releases they put in or how many builds went to production. So I also don't totally agree with that. I believe in small batch sizes to production, but if I can release something every minute, what does it matter if I'm not releasing anything new or anything better? So it's good to be able to release frequently, but is it valuable or is there anything new in that? Is where that kind of falls down to me. And so there is, yes, there is. I just can't use any specific names here today.
Is there any danger in, going so far down the VSM path that you alienate the very developers you're trying to recruit because of what you were saying earlier? It is art. You have to be in the zone. But if you're getting beat up every minute of the day about metrics, you're probably going to go work somewhere else.
Well, those are development efficiency metrics that are in the VSM space as well. And there's a couple companies out there that are doing that pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
However, my opinion is that a developer shouldn't care about value stream management. They've got their tasks. They're doing their tasks. What they should care is know that somebody's out there looking out for them to make sure that they're creating this freedom to be efficient, right? That somebody's out there removing all of this overhead or looking where they can remove this overhead so they can focus on the thing they like to do. And that's creating this beautiful piece of code and making sure that it's automated and there's different automations. So when I have this beautiful piece of code, I know that it's secure, it's fit my standards, I can put it in play, it's going to solve the business problem. Really, I think pieces of VSM should be removing all of that non-value added activity that we put on developers and figuring out how to automate that.
Right.
So that's part of value stream management. And so that's those things are what I call the pure play VSM stuff, right? That's where I'm looking at, okay, so as a lean person, lean principle person, not lean, I've been working on it. But as a lean person, I'm looking at how do they check the code out? Can I make that more efficient? How do they submit the code back? How do I make that more efficient? Removing any of the noise that stops them from really working on what they need to get done and what they're really passionate about doing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, go ahead.
So to your point, so much of the going back to that noise factor, it reminds me of, the project manager who always comes walking around to the DevOps team and they're like, where are we on this? Where are we on that? Where are we on the other thing? And the DevOps team always looks at them and scratches their heads and says, all that data is already in the tools and the systems we have. Why don't you just pull it yourself? And so is this kind of one of these kind of examples of touring where it says, if you can see a process, it's broken, and we just need to figure out a way to manage the value stream and pull all that data out of the tools without having the developer be involved?
Absolutely. I laughed at that because I used to do that as an old CEO. Okay, what's our return on investment? What's this? And what's our sales pipeline look like this week? Well, go look in the tool, Lance. You know where it is. I just get that for that all the time. But I don't have that report here. Well, it's right there, Lance. You know where it is. Anyway. So, but the truth is, removing that just like you said, the need to generate reports, let the individual contributor that does great work, that is a really great software engineer, do that, right? And remove all of that overhead so they can focus on whatever non-value added activities are. Now, some non-value added activities, sorry, I said that all the wrong way. Value added activities, and remove the non-value added or automate them, right? So, and some of those non-value added activities are still necessary and that you can't get rid of them and you need to automate them, right? But do it so that they can spend more time programming, more time working on the value added stuff. And I think that's where the pure value stream management stuff comes into play. And I think it really should be all about the developers, the DevOps piece, right? Moving it efficiently through to production. All of that is the purest value stream. But to go back to where we started, we also have to make sure that in order to be predictable in those things, we have to make sure that we're putting in the right sizes, the right value added stuff into the value stream. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times that's the mystery is at the top. We can make it really efficient. We can take a process, map it out, continually improve it, make it efficient, right? That's actually easier than determining, am I giving valuable things that I know I'm going to get the return out of? So I think value stream management as a market and software development and delivery has to be both.
Right. To that end, we have another great question here, but what's your best advice to folks about just setting up a pilot for VSM that works? I mean, what are the first things that you should be doing? So, because so many of these things, it's like, it's complex, and if you get it wrong from the beginning, it will just die on the vine. So, what's the thing that you've seen people do that gets them down the path ultimately, even though it's not something you just do out of the box per se?
So I have a difference of opinion, I think, than the industry here on this. You're not going to pilot VSM. You're already doing it. You just don't know it's VSM. You're managing your value stream in a way. You're already managing requirements, tasks. You're already managing your value stream. You're not piloting something you're already going to do, and you're already doing it. You just don't realize that it's value stream management. So if you want to be efficient at managing and value stream management is not a tool. It's a set of principles that you use to deliver goods and services to the waiting arms of the customer. So if you want to really get into VSM, study lean principles, try to look at your value stream from a lean perspective, study some systems thinking, map the value stream, use a value stream mapping tool, and see how you're developing software. We have assessments that we used to do. And that's where you go. Now, along that path, you're going to see where you can implement efficiencies and where you might need to gather metrics. Now you can think about VSM tools.
Sure. We have another question that's kind of along the same path here, but it assumes that IT leaders are pretty much bored by this subject. So how do we get them excited about it? I mean, in a lot of ways, IT leaders, they got enough things that they're being measured on, and probably they're not raising their hand to say, yeah, measure me on some more stuff. So how do we get them to kind of stand up and go, yeah, this is a thing we need to do?
Well, like I said, they're doing it. They're looking at, if they're not doing continuous improvement, then so on. But the interesting think about that question and kind of decouple it. It's decoupled into metrics, right? It's decoupled into why, there's a couple ways to look at that question. It still thinks of it maybe as a product perspective. One of the biggest challenges as an IT leader or a software leader, all that, is getting the information so I can communicate how well and efficient I'm doing something, or where I can find points of information to be better to communicate against what I'm being measured on. So really, if you're looking at value stream from a metrics perspective, it's going to give that IT leader that information he needs in order to relay the efficiencies across the whole team without having to spend all this time correlating that information. So that's the metric side of value stream management. Mm-hmm. I think you can show where, okay, according to these metrics, one of my biggest time in software development is from code commit to test. Okay, what's causing that? And I can go back and say, here's an area where I can improve. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why they should be interested in being involved in value stream management and software development delivery. Not so much from a tool perspective, but just from a mindset perspective. You implement tools, again, to automate the capture of data so I give the right metrics that the business is looking for, and then automate in the value stream as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you think we need to centralize DevOps a little bit before we get down the path? And I'll go back to your example about measuring time of code to test. I can have 8 development projects going, and they're all going to have different results, and they're all going to have different tools. And I come up with the average of that. But I'm never quite sure why one is more efficient than the other, and it could be the humans involved, it could be the tools, it could be the processes that they were using. So, am I going to need to move down a path towards, say, platform engineering to get to real ability to apply any kind of metrics that are meaningful?
It depends on your organization. The trouble is each organization has grown organically,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, manufacturing didn't grow organically under the CFO, right? So when I started in IT last week, I reported to the controller. I ran the whole IT operations for that shop floor, that plant, software, all that stuff. I reported to the controller. However, that's changing, that's morphing. So, but all of that's grown organically, not planned. A value stream in manufacturing is all planned. So there might be a need if you want to get to that ultimate level where you're that efficient, you need to start thinking that way, getting everything into one platform, one set of tools to go to DevOps across large organizations. And you also, in that mindset, you also have to think about the skills, the people, the tools. And there's so many tools out there today that you have to pick the right stack, especially in the DevOps world, of how you want this stuff to flow and make sure you can get analytics out of it. So I guess where I'm coming from, in my opinion, standardization there probably would be more efficient.
Right. At least standardization of the things that are non-value, right?
Yes.
Right.
Well, even platform specific,
Yeah.
I've consulted with a lot of companies, especially in SaaS makes it more difficult. I call it SaaS bloat, but that's where I have 5 technology stacks. I have this, I have that. All of that makes it tougher to be more efficient. Skill transfer. I mean, there's so many things that make it difficult when, this part of the product is ran by Microsoft. This part of the product's ran by Java, right? So I have a SaaS company. I have all these different technologies. How do you become efficient on that, even in your hiring? Because now I don't have cross-functional people. So I call it kind of SaaS bloat. But even at that point, it's good to standardize against the technologies, what you're developing, how you're putting it out there.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you cannot walk down the street these days without somebody leaping out to tell you about how their great new AI thing is going to save us from ourselves. And so I guess my question is, will AI get applied to this space? What might it look like? And do I need to do the analytics, or is the machine going to tell me the results because the algorithms have already sorted it?
Well, first, I want to answer this with my first question, my well-known answer when people ask me about value stream management.
Mm-hmm.
Value stream management is humans. Humans do it. Humans look at their processes to make sure that they're more efficient. Humans look at things like value stream things that are going on, like value stream noise. A human would have to see that the developer is doing all that. So is AI going to get in and understand all your tools, how you communicate, all of your things, understand, all of that yet, and tell you how to develop software better, more efficiently, with the right culture, happiness, people making stuff happen and being excited about what they're doing every day? No, that's you. That's the humans doing that. Now, where is it going to apply? I see it applying in analytics. Absolutely. We were doing some predictive analytics at Connect All against velocity and so on with AI. It should be able to look at the data and say, here's a projected bottleneck. Here's some recommendations maybe. But I just don't see it becoming something that's going to replace the human factor yet, of understanding how you are doing what you're doing and being more efficient at it. Is it going to help in spot areas? Will I be able to implement AI in areas? Yeah, I could probably do an AI recommendation on release confidence. I could probably do an AI recommendation on a whole bunch of things. You're still going to need the humans to do the value and manage their value stream Will AI help me maybe decide what's valuable in the value stream? Yeah, if I give it the right parameters. So yes, it's actually going to be in this space. I see it in this space, but it's not going to replace the human side of deciding how to be more efficient in your value stream and deciding all these other things as well.
Mm-hmm. As you kind of look at the whole space, and it's kind of squishy, but we see value stream management platforms, and then we see people talking about value stream as a feature of a project management platform or a DevOps platform, or it's a module. So is it a feature, or is it a platform, or is it something else entirely? I mean, where does it, in your mind, where should I be focused?
Well, first, I am giving my opinions. It would be nice to have a little bit contrarian here with me. But first, I've got to boldly say, value stream management is not a feature. It's just not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a feature. It's something you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How could it be a feature? There are features in products that help you manage your value stream more efficiently. Absolutely. But it's not a feature. Like at ConnectAll, we had a value stream management platform. And we still do. It just now belongs to Broadcom, right? That platform automated the communication between tools and helped you manage workflows between tools and activities in your value stream. Value stream wasn't a feature there. The features were the communication, the automation, the collection. So, but what you need to do is go look at your value stream and say, I need to apply an automation here to be more efficient. I need to automate feedback loops from my scanning tools into the backlog so I'll be more efficient. That's a feature of a tool that helps you manage your value stream. See what I'm saying?
I get you. The next question kind of piggybacks a little bit on that, but the question is, should we establish centers of excellence for value stream, or does that just kind of isolate it in an ivory tower somewhere that no one's going to pay any attention to?
Center of excellence for a value stream. I would say, I haven't thought of that, but yes, you should be. Continuous improvement, value stream management should be all part of the way that you're developing software. And you should be consistently looking at, how do I increase efficiencies? And not just efficiencies, right? So in that as well, all the time, there's new stuff coming in to the value stream, and somebody has to figure out how to fit that into part of what we're doing, right? There's new regulation, there's security regulations, there's audits. Depending on what industry you're in, that's always changing the things you have to do. So continual improvement should be part of your mindset as you're managing how you develop software development, software delivery. I think the challenge is nobody really manages that yet, right? They're not thinking about, all right, I got these, how do I become more efficient? And then they go into a digital transformation and somebody comes in and says, do things like this. And then they do that. And then but there's nobody really thinking about, how do I end to end become more efficient over time? In manufacturing, there is, right? And they're consistently looking at how to make this cell more efficient. So in manufacturing, different areas are different cells, right? So parts come in one end of the cell and go out the other. And they're consistently looking at those group of tools together in a way so I can be more efficient. That's called a Kaizen. And what I'm saying is that, yes, you should have somebody who's always looking at how you're developing software and how do I continue to make that more efficient. I wouldn't create a center of excellence over one value stream. I would do it across the whole set of value stream.
Mm-hmm. I think when we first launched value stream management, it got tagged with being a business for consultants. They would come in and kind of be the ones who were the experts in this space, and they would, do the standard thing that all consultants do. Are we kind of moving towards something that feels like, the next iteration of value stream management? I don't want to say VSM 2.0 or something like that, but, are we on the cusp of kind of moving this forward in some way that goes beyond what we all saw as the first iteration, and some people initially may have played with and formed an opinion about, but is it worth a second look today?
Well, my head goes to this based upon where we started. I don't know if we've got to VS 1.0 yet. Right? I mean, we are still, I mean, you've heard all of my opinions here today, but I could bring somebody in and give you a whole set of different opinions that aren't truly lean toward the more purist sense, right? So, my value stream management knowledge comes from working in manufacturing when I was a kid, right? And, managing and looking at value streams and being part of Kaizans and, going through all that training and mapping the value stream. So I'm trying to apply that to what this is, but you got other people who are coming from another total perspective, and it's all about value delivery. So until we can decide what this space really is, and we can all come together and say, this is value stream management, I don't think we're to 1.0 yet. And I'm also saying that from a consulting perspective, I don't know of any firm that's really doing a value stream management consultancy yet in software development delivery that is consistent yet. So I don't think we're to 1.0 yet. How's that? Is that a good answer for you?
That's fair enough. Then to that point then, and to the simplification, if value stream management is in the eye of the beholder, should we not just be creating some sort of dashboard for each type of unique role there is for someone who cares? Because the CFO is a stakeholder and they care about value stream management to a degree, but maybe not to the same level or the same degree that the head of the DevOps team does or the CTO does. So do we need to just kind of think about this from the outside in and say, yeah, there's a bunch of metrics and KPIs we're tracking, but how I present that to who it is, it depends on their role. So maybe we need to think about what does the presentation look like for that type of person and then work inwards.
So I got multiple points to an answer there.
Mm-hmm.
The first point is yes, absolutely. I agree with that. The second point is that's more about the metrics. So that's more about the value piece, right? So from a CFO perspective, what do I care about? If I'm looking at the efficiency or the costs I'm consuming against my software development delivery processes, that's what he's concerned about. Am I on budget? Am I managing my costs right? Am I working on the right things? We're going to return the right value? Yes. The challenge is how many different tools are involved in that, right? So Connect All uniquely solve that by connecting those tools and adding up cost and value. So CFOs are normally particularly worried about that. How do we give them the right view against what's going on? So absolutely yes. And what's really exciting for me personally is that's the part that products like Clarity bring to my VSM story. So absolutely on that part. Absolutely on a tier down, product management tier. Absolutely on a DevOps tier. A good value stream management platform and solution. Not value stream, I got to keep differentiating. Value stream management is human. But a good value stream platform should be able to capture data from all of those tools and give the software development metrics needed for those roles and personas. It's not just all about those flow metrics, which are useful, only if you can take action on them and only if you can change the way that you're developing against them to be more efficient and help you to make decisions. But there's also the DORA metrics. There's security return time metrics. There's quality metrics. All these things that let you look across this multi-tooled environment and give you the analytics you need to be more efficient, remove bottlenecks, look at the different teams and so on. So the answer is absolutely yes.
All right. Might the tail wind up wagging the dog here in this sense? So if every company runs around and says they're a software company, then the shareholders or the owners of that company are going to say, well, that's great. Then show me that you're good at that. And then that drives this whole conversation around value stream management and then forces the processes and the KPIs through the organization to answer the question back to the owners of the company that says, by gosh, we are good at what we do.
So it's interesting. Yes, every company is a software company today. Everybody is developing some type of software, from the smallest companies all the way up, and you're using software to be more effective in their business. But at the end of the day, most of that software is in service of another product. And if you're in a financial institution, actually financial institutions kind of put my point of view to a contrary, kind of rub my point of view, because truthfully, money is software now. I know people may not agree with that, but money is software. It's all transferred electronically, and it's very interesting as we're moving to a new age with that and already there. But my point of view from, like, let's say you're a laundromat. Well, you're using software to allow people to order somebody to come to your door and pick it up. You can still really run a laundromat without it, but if you want to be efficient, you want to gain more revenue, you use software to help you do things, right? If you're a grocery store, you want people to be able to order your stuff online and get it delivered. All these things are part of that digital transformation, about that being more efficiently. Now, you may not be developing that software, but that software is really important to your business. If you're an insurance company, it's important. When I was working for manufacturing, it was a heat treat company that I worked with to start with. And I developed a whole shop floor management system. It'd tell you what your furnace utilization was and where to put what parts in the furnace to get the best results. We developed that software there. The point I'm getting at is, most of the time that software is in service of some other thing you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say if you're a public company, they want to know how many depositors you have, and you need software to tell them that, right? You just can't figure that out anymore. What's the percentage of loan defaults do you have? And they're going to ask about the non-software questions that come from the software.
All right. On a more technical side, I'm going to try to do this question justice. I'm not sure I got it all, but one of our attendees is talking about there's a bad side effect with all of this, because coders do not delete old code when a new code arrives, because the newer revision might be slower, and then they're going to wait to see how that revision evolves. And so we wind up with all these multiple instances of things. And how do I know what is good software development practices, because that's what should be done, versus what is just bad habits of loading more script code on top of each other? And how do I get some insights into that?
I understand the problem. I'm trying to apply, some type of VSM knowledge to that. I would say, I don't know. Let me read that again to me. How do I what?
How do you kind of manage there's a lot of versions of different software, different microservices, but they don't all go away when the new revision arrives, because developers are cautious about performance issues. So it seems like, we're kind of getting and that may be a good thing or a bad thing, but a lot of times it's just a bad habit too, because people never get rid of the old code.
So part of the value stream that's in the value stream, right? Because everything that you're doing to develop software is part of the value stream. So in this scenario, wouldn't that be more of source control or some type of tool like that made sure that you knew the different revisions and which ones were in production, which ones weren't? So I think it's a good implementation of a tool like that to help with that. But it is part of the value stream, and you can capture metrics from it.
Right. I think we're just looking more visibility into that, versus if I look at a CI/CD or version control platform, it enables that capability, but I don't always have a lot of insight into whether or not that was a positive or negative effect. So maybe that's where the bridge is, or hopefully.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And that could come from, since you have connections into that, you may be able to capture analytics against what you're producing or what you're putting out to see which one's more effective or less effective, or so on. And there's also tools past that'll do that type of will analyze those types of things.
All right. So it's the right tool for the right job, as they say, right?
Yeah.
All right. what is that one thing that you see people doing when it comes to value stream management that, you've been doing this a while, that just makes you shake your head and go, folks, we're better than this?
Yeah, so it's the confusion. Getting to what does that mean here in the software development and delivery. It's not just people, it's the market, right? It's everybody trying to decide this is what VSM is. And Forrester, Gartner are doing great jobs of helping us do that. But every company that sells some type of tooling in value in the software delivery world is jumping on the VSM bandwagon. But they're all taking a different approach, a different perspective, right? I could give you 4 analytics tools that give different analytics against software development efficiencies. I can go look at some big companies, and they're looking at it differently. But each one of them is trying to own it from that perspective, right? So I think that's the bigger challenge. And the thought process of, I'm going to go implement some VSM. Well, it's human. You're already doing it. And again, this is my rough terminology of it, right? You're already doing value stream management. Let's train up how to do it efficiently and how to look at it, and how to remove waste, and understand, like, why are we having these meetings and what are all this extra tools for? Do we really need all that? Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest thing when I run into people doing VSM and, oh, we're doing VSM. Look at these cool metrics. Well, that's just cool metrics. That's not VSM. VSM is taking those metrics and infecting change to be more efficient.
All right. And the danger, of course, is you may just be trying to prove a point that you already have decided is the true statement. So you may have decided that monolithic is better than microservices, and then you just go looking for the math to prove that, rather than having a really even playing field analysis of what's going on.
Rather than having an open mind about what you're really trying to accomplish, right? So if you're going in to find, it's, data is, you're right on that one. Data is that, right?
All right, cool. Well, folks, that's all we got for today. I want to thank Lance for sharing his knowledge and insights. I'm going to kick it back to Cody to take us out.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And Lance, it looks like we got through our whole thing today without having too many camera issues until that last second. So,
that was funny. I know.
But we made it through all right.
Cool.
So awesome. Lance, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure getting to talk to you before we go live. And Mike, of course, thank you for keeping us on track today. So to our audience, just a reminder that we were recording this session. You will be receiving an email with a link to access the recording on demand. And of course, it is going to be living on the DevOps website at devops.com/webinars. And be sure to look in the on-demand section. The 4 winners of our $25 Amazon gift card drawing are Jonathan K., Elena M., Shirley D., and Marcine S. So to our 4 winners, congratulations. Keep an eye on your email inbox. Your gift card should arrive in the next 48 or so hours, but if you don't happen to see that email from us, just check your spam folder in case it happened to be filtered out. And one final note is that I have it in the sticky message, I have it in the chat, but it'll also be redirected onto your screen as soon as we close out. But we would love for you to stick around and fill out our quick survey. It just helps us improve on our formatting and subscribe or come up with some content that aligns with what you want to see. So please do let us know your feedback there. Mike, Lance, it was good to speak with you. And to everyone else, you may now disconnect. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Cody.